Despite International Criminal Court on Israel genocide and massive calls from the world's leader on ceasefire in Gaza Palestine, Benjamin Netanyahu's IDF keep committing the killing, and this time the foreign aid workers. Here is the detail for you from RT International Courtesy.
Across the mainstream media, stories of 7 aid workers from the World Central Kitchen killed trying to provide relief in Gaza by an Israeli airstrike.
Israel faces global condemnation for what it calls a mistaken airstrike.
The World Central Kitchen is pausing its Gaza operations after 7 of its workers were killed in an airstrike.
1 Palestinian and 6 foreigners, including 1 dual American-Canadian, as well as an Australian and Europeans.
And Israeli officials are under an unusually high amount of pressure to take responsibility for their actions.
First of all, is the Israeli government apologising to the families of the aid workers killed, including the 3 families in Britain?
All of us have expressed grief about this occurrence.
Yes, but are you apologising?
To be frank, if you let me answer, Krishnan, there's no point attacking me already. I've just arrived, for heaven's sake.
I'm not attacking you. I'm just asking you a simple question. I want an answer to it.
No, you are.
Are you apologising?
And allow me to answer.
So this was a mistake, wasn't it? So you can apologise already. You don't need to know the precise details to issue an apology.
Clearly,
there are grieving families tonight.
There are grieving families, and we grieve with them because clearly something catastrophic has happened.
But why all the uproar now? You'd have to be from a different planet to think that this was the first time a handful of civilians were killed by Israel. Well, most of the 7 dead aid workers had passports from Western countries. And that's enough for Western journalists to hold their politicians' feet to the flames.
Could there be any repercussions for the United States? I mean, I know you're going to say that you're waiting for the result of the investigation and everything, but as we've discussed, I mean, we've had this before, investigations, we keep seeing these, it wasn't just these 7, I think there are 200 aid workers or so who have been killed by some Saudis.
We are going to push them to do better, as we have done since the beginning.
You have a definitive assessment that no violations have occurred.
So we have not at this time concluded that Israel has violated international humanitarian law, but these are very much ongoing processes.
Firing a missile at people delivering food and killing them, not a violation of international humanitarian law.
Your question presumes, at this very early hour, that it was a deliberate strike, that they knew exactly what they were hitting, that they were hitting aid workers and did it on purpose, and there's no evidence of that.
It's about time some serious public attention was given to the plight of aid workers in Gaza. And in this case, the chief of World Central Kitchen says his staff were deliberately targeted by the Israelis. And part of what he said was not a war on terrorism, but a war against humanity itself. For its part, Israel says its supposedly high-precision military technology misidentified its target.
The strike was not carried out with the intention of harming WCK aid workers. It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in a very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened.
Oops! That's also how Tel Aviv has brushed off the over 12,000 children that have been killed in Gaza since last October, a figure that surpasses the total number of dead kids in conflicts between 2019 and 2022. Just one look at the Al-Shifa hospital before and after Israel launched its most recent onslaught would give anyone a sense of how liberally overwhelming force is being used there. According to an independent investigation, the Israeli military is even using an AI system called Lavender to identify potential Hamas militants with nothing more than a rubber stamp from its operators in determining who's who. And it was apparently given the green light to kill up to 20 innocent people for every valid target killed that was classified as a junior operative.
Every person who wore a Hamas uniform in the past year or 2 could be bombed with 20 civilians killed as a collateral damage, even without special permission. In practice, the principle of proportionality did not exist.
To put that rate of acceptable collateral damage into perspective, the U.S. military's rate for low-level commanders during the invasion of Iraq was near 0. It all goes to show for why we're seeing such astronomical collateral damage at the hands of Tel Aviv, and how Israel seems to care not one iota for the preservation of innocent life in Gaza.
They were international rather than Palestinians, so it mattered more. And we know the hypocrisy of the West. And definitely, the Western media is part of this, support of Israel. The Western countries are supporting Israel. We are talking about the past colonial countries are not going to condemn a new colonial country. The media in the West usually is bringing the news only, 10 were killed today, 50 were killed today, but they don't make an issue about it. When it comes to what happened to the Israelis, and especially after the 7th of October, we saw a different face for these media. And they were talking about, killing of the children and the children be beheaded and women were raped. And they made a big and huge campaign based on lies, which none of those accusations were proven. When it comes to the Palestinian, definitely, the Palestinian is not unequal to a European. We are not white enough, apparently, and we are, brownish people. So they don't care that much. It's as the Israeli describe the Palestinian in Gaza, the human animals or animals to describe the Palestinian living in Gaza. So if they are animals, why the media also would make a big fuss about, the killing of a Palestinian when it comes to the killing of a European or a foreign national, like what happened with these 7 workers, 8 workers, and they make a big fuss about them. Yet there isn't a big, fuss by these media or the Western countries in general to make a real issue out of the crimes committed by Israel in Gaza.